Welcome to 365 Math. In this video, we are going to be talking about the compound interest. When you put money into a bank, the interest you receive is almost always compound interest. And this means that each year you receive interest not only on the amount of money that you invested, but also on the interest that you received the previous year. For example, suppose a bank pays a rate of 5% compound interest on money in a deposit account. A person puts $500 into the account. After 1 year, that person will be having $500 plus the 5% of 500 that they would have invested, which gives us $525. And then in year number 2, that person is going to have $525 plus the 5% of 525, which is equal to $551.25. And then in year number 3, that person is going to have the previous amount, which was 551.25 plus the 5% of that value, and they will then have at the end of year 3 578.81. So this is the accumulation that happens. They'll get the interest of the previous year's value. For example, in year 1, we had 525. And then in year 2, we started off with 525 and we got 551. In year number 3, we had that 551 plus 5% of that value and we got 578.81. So for one to get the value of the investment, this is the formula that we're going to be using throughout, where our P is the amount of money that was invested, R, which is the percentage rate of interest, N is the amount of years that it is invested for. I'm going to go ahead and look at 3 examples for you to understand this concept. Number 1, a bank pays compound interest on 9% on money in deposit accounts. Amy puts $2,000 in the bank. How much has she after Part A, 1 year, Part B, 2 years, and Part C, 3 years? We are going to say Part A, that is year 1, is equal to the initial deposit, which was $2,000, plus 9%, which is 9 over 100 of that same value of 2,000, and we are going to cancel out this 0 and this 0, this 0 and this 0. We have 2,000 plus 9 times 20, that is 180. Year 1, she would have $2,180. Part B, that is year number 2. We are now starting off with the previous value, which was 2,180 plus 9% of that same value, 2,180. We are going to cancel out this 0 and this 0. Then we get 2,180. If we multiply 9 times 218 over 100, we get 196.2. Now adding this 2 at the end of year 2, she would have 2,376.2. And then the last part, year 3, we're starting off with the previous value, that is 2,376.2 plus the interest of that same value, 2,376.2. And then we get 2,376.2 plus 213.858. And rounding the figure to 2 decimal places, at the end of year 3, she has $2,590.06. This is how you calculate using the compound interest. You always use the previous year's value. For example, in year number 2, we started off with this value, which we then got 2,376.2, and in year 3 we started off with that previous value, and finally we got 2,590.06. Moving on to example number 2. A student gets a grant of $10,000 per year. Assuming a grant is increased by 7% each year, what will her grant be in 4 years? Remember, the formula is P. We have 1 plus R over 100 to the power of N. when we substitute figures, we can change this fraction into a decimal to make our calculations much more easier. For example, we're going to have our P, which is 10,001 plus the rate is 7% over 100 to the power of 4. And we're going to have 10,001 plus, changing 7% into a decimal, we have 0.07 to the power of 4. And then we have 10,000 multiplying 1.07 to the power of 4. And if we punch this, we get our value as 13,107.96. So this is how you use the formula. You can simply change this fraction into a decimal to make your calculations much more easier. Last example, number 3. Assuming an average inflation rate of 8%, work out the probable cost of the following items in 10 years. We have part A as the motor scooter for $6,500, and part B, we have a smartphone for $340, and part C, we have a car for $50,000. We are going to use the formula P1 plus R over 100 to the power of N. Part A, we have our P as 6,500 multiplying 1 plus the rate is 8%, so that is 8 over 100 to the power of 10, since we are calculating for 10 years. We are going to then have 6,500 in bracket. If we change this 8 over 100 to a decimal, we get 0.08. Now if we add 1 to it, we get 1.08 to the power of 10. And multiplying this using your calculator, we get our answer as 14,033.01. For part B, we have a smartphone 340, so that is our P, 341 plus 8 over 100 to the power of 10, and we get 341.08 to the power of 10. Punching this on our calculator, we get our answer as 734.03. And lastly, part C, we have a car of 50,000, 1 plus 8% to the power of 10, which gives us 50,000 multiplying 1.08 to the power of 10, and the final value becomes $107,946.25. So there you have it, guys. I simply use this formula to calculate the compound interest. I hope you learned something from this video. Thanks for watching. Please do hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.